Hi guys, it's Michelle from My Craft Source. I'm thrilled that you are here today because that means we're going to take some baby steps together and learn how to use the Silhouette design software. If you're watching this, it also means that you maybe have struggled a little bit or you're in your infant stages of learning how to use the Silhouette. Either way, I'm so happy to show you the process of getting started and going over some of the awesome features that the software has to offer. See you guys around. Let's begin by opening Silhouette Studio together. Double-click your studio icon or right-click to open. You will notice when you open Silhouette Studio, Untitled 1 tab will be open. You can start creating here. You may notice a Recovered Documents window in the right corner. Silhouette Studio autosaves and will often show your recovered files here. So you can simply exit out that window. So we are going to start a new drawing on the Untitled 1 tab that is already open in Silhouette Studio. Let us save our document as Demonstration 2 by using the Save icon. We're going to go over the right-hand toolbar. We previously went over the Page Setup tab in our last video. This is the pick scan. This is something we'll go into depth with on a different video. However, you will find use for the Fill tool, and in order to show what it does, I need to draw a simple rectangle by clicking and dragging. The Fill tool is helpful when you are trying to determine which color to use in your design. With the Fill tool, it allows us to fill in our shapes or with no fill at all. There's also the option of using a fill gradient and a fill pattern. Those are useful for the print and cut feature that will be reviewed in a different video. I often find myself creating the fill color to match the vinyl that I'm going to be cutting. Our next icon is our line style icon. This is where you can change the outline of your shape to a dashed line, which is typically a score mark, or you can also adjust the thickness of your line style. You also have the option of changing the colors of your lines by clicking the different colors in the selection box. You can also adjust these with the toolbar that is found at the top of Silhouette Studio. The next tool is a very important tool, and you'll find that you use it the most often. This is your trace icon. With the trace tool, we will need to go and bring in an image from a different source. So with the trace tool, you can use a JPEG or a PNG or any other image file that you wish to trace the outline of. So I'm going to do a simple Google search for a circle clip art. The best images to use are clear images that are not pixelated. I'm just going to choose that orange circle there by right-clicking and copying it and pasting it into my workspace. In order to paste, you just need to right-click and select the Paste button. So here is my JPEG image. Silhouette will not recognize this as a cut file. So in order to create cut lines, we need to select the trace area by using the trace tool. By using the Select Trace Area tool, we're going to click and drag a selection box over our JPEG image in the areas that we wish to trace. You can use the Solid Fill or the Outline button to generate your trace lines. Once selected, you can move the threshold, the high pass, and the scale bars until you get a desired highlighted area of your trace. Once you have your image filled with yellow or outlined with the yellow, you will want to hit your trace button. That will generate a line that Silhouette will now recognize as a cut line. You can also use the Trace Outer Edge tool or the Trace and Detach tool. The Trace Outer Edge tool will simply trace all the edges of your design and nothing on the interior of your design. The Trace and Detach tool will trace your image and detach it from its background. The next icon is your Image Effects icon. The Image Effects tool is not something you will use. However, if you use the Print then Cut feature, then you may visit the Image Effects tool. Here we have our text style panel. In order to use this icon, we must first go and write our text by using the text tool that we learned about in part 1. So let us type something simple in a text box. Now you can see the text style tool is active. In the text style box, you can see where you can select a different font style, different sizes, and different features of your text box. You can also adjust the alignment of your text and the position of your text. You have the option of adjusting your character spacing as well. And here you simply have your spell check. The text tool is a very complex feature of Silhouette, and it is one that you will use probably the most often other than your trace tool. Here you can see that I've taken the text by selecting the plus sign within the circle and I've drug it to a cut line. The text will then wrap around my cut lines. So this is an interesting feature that you may use to help wrap your text around some of your designs. You can adjust how close the character spacing is by using the slide bar. In order to deactivate the text, simply click outside of the box. So the next feature is the Transform panel. By selecting an object on your workspace, you can then transform the alignment of your object by clicking the Center to Page or the Center button. There's also the option of a horizontal alignment, left, center, or right. And there is a vertical alignment feature at the top, center, or the bottom. You also have the option for horizontal and vertical spacing. This tool is helpful when you have many objects on your page and you want to ensure that you're getting a perfect alignment in the center of your page. Under the Transform panel, you also have scale options. So you can use these scale buttons, or you can simply click on the corner of your selected shape and drag your object to scale it larger or smaller. You also have the rotate option. You can use these buttons, or you can use the green circle on your shape that is activated by clicking on your shape. Here you can see we're clicking the green circle button to rotate it. This is our Move button, so you can use the arrows to move your shape up or down, left or right, or you can simply click and drag your object to your desired positions. This next tool is our Replicate tool. This can be helpful when you want to duplicate your item. In order to use it, you simply click on your shape and click whether you want your shape duplicated left or right, top or bottom. You can also create rows and columns by using the rows and columns buttons. And then we have the fill page option, which will take your selected shape and fill it with equal spacing. We do have the option to mirror your objects and to rotate copies of your objects. You may need to use this one when designing, but I don't find a use for it often. We're going to use the shape we just created to show you the Modify panel. So these objects are independent, individual objects. Whenever we highlight and select all of them and click our Weld button, it will weld our objects into one shape. Alright, so we're going to create a circle, and I'm going to fill it for you so it's easier to see, and a square. And I'm going to fill the square in for you to see the Modify panel better. We're going to select our objects and hit the Weld button. The Weld button has created one object out of the two shapes. The Subtract All button, once select the two objects, will subtract the top object from the bottom object. Our Divide button does something similar, but it will create a new shape from where the two shapes have intersected one another. Here you can see the shape it created at the intersection of the two shapes. The next button is our Subtract tool. By selecting both objects and hitting the Subtract tool, it is going to subtract the top shape from the bottom shape. If you notice, I've switched which object is on top and used the Subtract tool again, and you can see that it has subtracted the top object from the bottom object. Now we're going to use our Intersect button. It's going to erase everything but what is intersecting one another. And then finally our Crop button, which is similar to the Intersect tool. But what it does is it crops by using the top shape as its cutting tool. The next button is our Compound Path tool. When you click Make a Path, it will take the objects to cut and create one path. When you release that path, the shapes go back to being independent shapes. When using the Detached Lines button, it will detach your lines from your fill. Now, using the Offset tool, we can create internal and external offsets. So, to do an offset, you click your shape and click the Offset button. You can then adjust the offset distance by sliding the scale bar or using the arrows or typing in the distance you wish your offset to be. Here's an example of the internal offset using the same method that we used for the external offset. The last tools on our panel are a little more complicated and can be used for other things than simply cutting materials. So we're going to just skip these sections for now, and we're going to touch bases again in another video to go over text even more in depth than we previously did.